Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting the United Nations. And as you said, I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of Secretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Director and USG of UN Women, Michelle Bachelet, to join you in these very important discussions. And you just mentioned that you asked whether people would be wondering why you're not having this kind of an event during CSW. Well, there will be some, I was just telling Ambassador here that there will be some, over 100, in fact, 96 was the last count, and then I heard over 100 side events. But we need a number of events to keep the momentum before CSW. So it's timely, you have the right issue, the right time, and the right kind of context. So I congratulate you on that, and I really think that this is an important initiative. Let me first deliver a message from the Secretary General of the UN, which I will now read. I would like to commend the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Peace Islands Institute for organizing this important symposium. In a world too often characterized by differences, raging conflicts, and growing inequalities, there is an urgent need to build bridges across borders, faiths, and cultures. Now is the time to celebrate our shared values and shared aspirations to build a more peaceful and just world. At the heart of every faith, one can find the same set of core values. These are the shared values of peace, dignity, and respect for others. And these values are essential elements to build sustainable and lasting peace, to promote gender equality, and to empower women. Peace building and women's engagement are at the center of the work of the United Nations. I have also made them priorities of my 5-year action agenda and generational imperatives. I have called for building a safer and more secure world. For that, we need enhanced partnerships, a shared international commitment, and stronger capacities for facilitation and dialogue. Faith-based organizations and interfaith dialogue play an important role in building the shared vision and commitment. I have also called for the full participation of women in political, economic, and social life. This means addressing attitudes that deny women power and significance in social and political relationships. Faith-based organizations can play a role in challenging these prejudices. Faith-based organizations reach more people around the world than any other form of social organization. And often women are the backbone of these networks, whether as leaders or followers. And similar to the ways women sustain community survival and stability in times of both peace and conflict, they do so in the context of faith-based organizations. There is a tremendous reservoir of conflict resolution capability within faith-based organizations in the hands of women. We must build on successful initiatives such as what Lema Gerbe achieved in Liberia by bringing together Muslim and Christian women and building a peace movement that at last enabled the belligerent parties to come to an agreement. This was not only about building peace, it was also about empowering women as real change agents. Together with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Tawakkul Karma, Lema Gerbe received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. Many other women play an invisible role in the under-noticed everyday work of building peace in societies, whether they are in open armed conflict or not. This is the work of building community relationships, of trust and goodwill, and the work of reconciliation and resolving social tensions. whether working with their own faith communities or engaging in interfaith dialogue, women of faith are often among the first to reach out with open arms and engage in peace-building efforts. And I would say also peacemaking efforts, as we have had in this very room in other contexts discussions on this. Still, traditionally, most faith-based organizations are dominated by men. More needs to be done to increase the presence of women in positions of authority within faith-based organizations, and to amplify women's voices in peace-building and interfaith dialogue. Faith leaders, traditional and religious leaders, must actively take measures in support of gender equality, where women can engage freely with people, ideas, and actions that can promote social cohesion and support peace and reconciliation. It is vital for all voices within a community to be heard without fear and without discrimination. Through interfaith dialogue, women can be equally empowered to discuss and decide the content of shared religious and cultural values, and to promote the practices that respect and promote the peace and dignity of their communities, families, and themselves. The United Nations supports interfaith dialogue in multiple ways. Through programs on the ground, partnerships with faith-based organizations, and initiatives such as the Alliance of Civilizations, the United Nations is promoting interfaith dialogue in support of peace and security, human rights, and sustainable development. I wish you much success in your discussions today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to complement the Secretary General's message with a few points relevant to the work of UN Women, the United Nations entity for gender equality and women's empowerment. And I would like to mention here that Madame Bachelet was in Indonesia in November to attend the OIC meeting there, and this is an engagement with OIC which we hope will augur well for our partnership in the future as well. As you know, UN Women was created a bit more than 2 years ago by the UNGA. This decision signaled an unprecedented commitment by all member states to scale up support for gender equality and the empowerment of women. And it marked the successful culmination of many years of civil society organizations to create a stronger UN organization dedicated and in an integrated way organized to promote and advance the needs of women and girls worldwide. And one of our important roles is to foster partnerships with multiple stakeholders in order to advance the agenda of gender equality, because we believe that it requires the engagement of all segments of society in every country. So how does this interface between faith-based organizations and our mission take place? I want to explain that a bit. Now, in every country around the world, gender stereotypes and gender-based discrimination continue to run deep in the common psyche. Positive change requires everybody's engagement: women and men, girls and boys, government leaders, parliamentarians, women's group, the private sector, community and traditional leaders, and of course, faith-based organizations. In Secretary General's message, he mentioned that 70% of the world's population is organized around faiths and organized around religion. So we need to have that huge constituency as part of this campaign to advance gender equality and women's empowerment. And through our work in more than 70 countries, we have found an important partner in faith-based organizations. Some of our partnerships have been instrumental in furthering our work for the promotion of gender equality, and especially in the area of peace building. peace building and the promotion of gender equality are interlinked. You know that Secretary General's 7-point action plan on women in peace building is a critical agenda for the UN and for member states to implement. But it also equally includes a very strong component of civil society participation. And 1325 related UN Security Council resolution, or PRST, which was adopted last year, highlighted the role of civil society. And faith-based organizations form a very important part of civil society. At the same time, peace building also creates opportunities to advance gender equality and empower women, because we believe that peace, there are many deconstructive aspects of war and conflict. But one reconstructive aspect and building back better aspect of peace building is the opportunity to build back better, to do away with the prejudices of the past, to do away with the iniquities of the past, and to build a new society, to build a new polity and an economy that is more equitable and that gives women their rightful role. So while political, social and economic structures are being redefined and renegotiated, and countries and societies rebuilt, much can be done to remove gender-based discriminatory practices. And we believe that we at UN Women are committed to working with all organizations in which this profound understanding and dedication to peace and equality is a shared goal. Our work in many countries has shown that interfaith dialogue can play a positive role in making and sustaining peace while promoting gender equality and women's rights. We have promoted interfaith dialogue in 3 main ways. First, to advance women's engagement in peace processes and conflict prevention. Second, to stop violence against women. And as we know, violence is a continuum in peace and war. It is a continuum. So we have to really deal with that. Third, to end discrimination against women in general, because all of that contributes to sustainable peace. For example, in Nepal, we supported the formation of a national interreligious network to combat violence against women. We linked religious leaders with peace activists, advocates for the rights of migrant women workers, and male leaders from the Men Engage Alliance against gender-based violence. Religious leaders participated in awareness raising on women's human rights and gender-based violence. And this interfaith network then trickled down to the district level to fight for social justice for Muslim and Madhesi women. We also partnered with the World Hindu Federation to publish a study on the values of Hinduism with regard to gender equality and violence against women. And Hindu religious leaders use this to speak more forcefully and frequently on these matters in their preaching and outreach activity efforts in Nepal. With Religions for Peace in India, our partnership included global internet-based advocacy to end violence against women. I see that the Secretary General of the OIC has arrived, and I welcome him. So in South Asia, UN Women has been working with faith-based organizations comprising Buddhist monks, Hindu priests, and Muslim Maulvis to address the challenge of trafficking of children and women. And then, for example, the Muslim leaders in Bihar, India, for example, chose to devote one Friday per month to make awareness on child trafficking and gender inequality. In Rwanda, we supported an organization of the Presbyterian Church to train more than 400 Catholic, Muslim, and Protestant leaders in all 30 districts of the country on the role of religious leaders in promoting the participation of women in decision making, and that country has a very high number of women parliamentarians. And it's also an example of building back better in the area of gender equality and political participation. In the Balkans, we have encouraged faith leaders to promote women's rights and combat gender-based violence. We have also supported women's engagement and efforts to seek leadership with interfaith dialogues and networks. For instance, via a collaboration with Medica Zenica in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So faith has this very special alchemy, this special power to bridge boundaries and bring people closer. It can do the opposite sometimes, but we have to make sure that it does this. It does everything it can to bridge boundaries and bring people together. Leaders of mosques, churches, temples, synagogues, and other religions play a powerful role in shaping attitudes, opinions, and behaviors. They have a large constituency, including women and youth, and we believe at UN Women that, of course, gender equality and women's empowerment starts with girls and women and how they envision themselves and their role, but also it is about engaging men and boys in a re-envisioning of women and girls and their roles. They have outreach and networks, and they are credible to the people. About 70% of the world's population identify themselves as members of the faith community. To bring positive changes in people's lives, it is essential to understand the values and practices that are the essence of our individual and collective identities, and they are deeply entwined in the fabric of daily life. So, beyond shaping common values and through that promote gender equality, faith-based organizations can play an important role in supporting communities, and they are the oldest and sometimes the most trusted social service networks. It is estimated that faith-based organizations provide 50% of the health and education services in poor communities around the world. That is the power of healing and support that they have, but also equally they carry the power of transforming mindsets. In sub-Saharan Africa, 40% of the healthcare infrastructure is operated by faith-based groups. In this sense too, they are natural partners in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, and in that context, or in the context of conflict and post-conflict countries, of advancing their role in peace building. This social networking, social protection is an important contribution to building and sustaining peace in communities and mitigating some of the inequalities that exacerbate resentments that can lead to conflict. Through our work at UN Women, we have found that building alliances with and involving faith leaders and members are factors that can actually determine a program's success and failure. This is very important. This is particularly critical in traditional societies, where the assertion of women's rights can be perceived as a threat to structures of power and sometimes a threat to the faith itself. And that must not be. Instead, the benefits of gender equality and women's empowerment can become convincing arguments to further this agenda. Interfaith dialogue also needs to be embedded in the work of the United Nations, in the values of the United Nations. Faith perspectives count because the international dialogue between North and South, East and West has also been about culture and religion. Much has been done by the whole United Nations system to promote and enhance interfaith dialogue and engagement with faith-based organizations, and UN Women participates in the interagency task force on engaging faith-based organizations, which is chaired by UNFPA And this is an important initiative to coordinate the work of the UN system in this area. So, ladies and gentlemen, in our diverse and plural world, we need discourses that promote plurality, cohesion, and acceptance of the other, rather than divergences. Such ideas and values, when promoted simultaneously by different faiths, can have a lasting legitimacy and impact. UN Women will continue to be a strong partner in this endeavor. And of course, our offer remains open to all faith-based organizations to work with them to advance these values, to advance gender equality and women's empowerment, including in the context of peace building. Thank you.